Hey guys, Casual Crono here. I've had a lot of requests for free characters and relatively free characters, and one that pops up surprisingly a lot is Prai. Prai is a hammer, kind of sort of a tank, and he's not a free character, but he's a relatively common character. I pull him so much, I've naturally got 134 shadow on him. As far as skills, he has one series of skills that are blunt attacks, the third being a fire blunt attack. It reduces type resistance and it heals the party for 1500. His other skills are honestly relatively lackluster, but he is a common character that you can get. So, I'm not expecting mind-blowing skills. He has things, for example, that reduce enemy intelligence by 15%, or boost party's intelligence by 15% and restore statuses. He has the ability to give the party hit points back and give them a small regen. His claim to fame, however, is this one skill called Indulgence. Indulgence costs a ton of mana, and it's preemptive. It casts guard on the user until the end of the whole turn, and the power of the whole team goes up by 30%. It's just power, not intellect. And at the start of the next turn, it stuns Prai. So basically, if you cast this for one turn, your team cannot be killed. All attacks go to him, and he cannot die. The catch is the very next turn, he's stunned and can't do it, so you can't just spam that skill over and over. It's a lot like Radius AS's Chivalry. You can't bypass... well, you kind of can, but you can't normally bypass the stun. So if you try to equip like stun resist on him or something like that, he's still going to be stunned. So just to show, he's not a damage dealer, so don't even try to gear him up to do massive amounts of damage. The other issue with him, which is why I kind of sort of call him a tank, he doesn't have rage naturally. There's nothing that he can do aside from Indulgence to attack or to draw attacks from enemies. So here's his attack. He heals the team for 1500, and the boss has a type resistance that's down. And it's not a huge amount, it's a small amount. If he casts Indulgence, all attacks are going to him, and on the next turn, he's stunned. So there's nothing I can do with him anyway. I mean, the other characters are still free to act. And he could cast it again, but at 250 points, you need to either have some major mana regen going, or buff him up majorly for mana. So he's already down to 58 mana left. So that's kind of him in a general nutshell. He's a fire type hammer user. Yay, I got silver tokens. He's a fire type hammer user. And as far as personalities, he's a member of the clergy, West, hammer, fire, and miner. And as far as I'm aware, I'm kind of running through my head at the moment, but I don't think there's any grasta that are associated with miners. So just West, hammer, fire, and clergy. So let's start with mid-game level gear. Since he does redirect damage and can't die, his health may or really may not matter. Now, in between, when he's stunned, he can still be taking damage then, so I tend to build him with a fair amount of health. I don't necessarily go overboard. At least I don't think I'm going overboard with 7,500. But as far as weapons, since he redirects damage to himself, I try to give him some extra health. So the Kwai weight is a good mid-game weapon. Oriental Bracelet improves resistances. And as usual, I tend to prefer the 2000 health badges from Toto's Theater World. In his case, I tend to do a reduction of speed. He doesn't have that much speed, but if you saw in the description, Indulgence is preemptive, so it does not rely on speed. So really, Noble Flames, do you want to attack before the boss or after the boss? Since it restores health, I sometimes like it when the boss goes first and damages the team, because then he can heal them up a little bit afterwards. But, to each their own. And then for grasta, I tend just to have the usual grasta that have 300 health. And if I had extra HP ore, I'd toss them on, and I might do that for the advanced stuff. So with just this gear alone at level 80, he's sitting at 7,500 health, which for mid-game level bosses is usually enough to survive an attack while he's stunned. So let's go ahead and pair him up with some relatively free or easy to get characters and go showcase his Indulgence on a boss. In order to create a relatively free team, I've decided to go with a fire route, and all of the characters are free except Sukiya. Sukiya is a somewhat common character. There have been at least 2 opportunities in the past where if you complete a certain chapter, you're given a choice between her and another character. So in that regard, she has been a free character for a lot of people. It's actually how I got her. I've never actually legitimately pulled her. So keep that in mind. If you don't have Sukiya, another free fire character who can inflict pain would be the best choice for this slot. But let's take a look at this team. Aldo is our main damage dealer. He has his personal weapon, guidance bracelet, which improves his type attack, so his fire attacks. And it's mid-game, so I just gave him a 25 power badge. He has 3 power of pains, 1 with bullseye, 1 with rose with thorns, and the third one is not upgraded. Sukiya has pretty much the same 3 power of pains and the same upgrades. She has her manifest weapon, a guidance ring, which improves her fire attacks, and a 25 power badge as well. Aisha is a free character. She has the spinal staff, which is I believe an OOPA arts staff, and that's mainly just for some extra regen and MP consumption. Really, any defensive staff can work. She has the tempered ring at +3, which gives her just a tiny bit of extra health. And she's a staff user, so I gave her a 25 int badge. Now, if you are at the middle of the game and you have much better badges and gear, by all means, equip your team with those. These are just things that I'm relatively sure everyone should have access to during the mid-game. Since she is a support character, she has 3 grasta that all have 300 health, one of which is upgraded with the HP ore that you can get in the future Guerrilla dungeon or the Underworld dungeon. So she's getting an extra 1,200 health. She could potentially get 600 more if I upgraded everything. But again, mid-game. And then, of course, we have Prai, who is geared the way we had him. 7,500 health, Kawaii weight, Oriental bracelet, and so forth. The reserve characters typically try to support your main damage dealer. Here, Aldo is the main damage dealer, and personality-wise, he has a huge list of personalities. First and foremost, he is a sword and fire user. So Gildna is equipped with Power of Inferno sword, Enhance if max HP sword, and low HP sword. But all 3 of these you should be able to get mid-game. And then Geru is a dragon, has a dragon personality. So he has Sound Body Dragon and Almighty Power Dragon, which are designed to buff not only himself, but Aldo. And then the Enhance if max HP Fire, which improves your damage by 10% if you're at max health and a fire user. As far as sidekicks, I opted for free sidekicks. I opted for Iridian's blue form, the water type form, and that's because his aura will only affect allies. When any party member's hit points gets below 80%, they gain a little bit of type resistance. If I used healing Iridian, if my team takes wind damage, my team loses power and intellect, and I don't like that. And if I use fire Iridian, when my team takes magic damage, my resistance decreases, and I don't like that. because those two target not only allies but enemies, so it affects everyone. The only one of the three that only affects allies is Water Iridian, and so that's the one I chose. If you're not fighting something that does wind damage, then by all means, the wind one would probably be the best. And then Kurobo, our very first sidekick, has an aura. Anything that takes fire damage loses power and intellect. It does affect your team as well as the enemy, so if you're fighting an enemy that does fire damage to you, you might not want to use Kurobo. But the boss that we are going to fight it does all wind damage, so this one will only help. So those are the two sidekicks. That's the team. Let's go check it out. The general order for this team: Dragon God Sign will reduce physical resistance. Shadow Slash will inflict pain. Flame Serenade drops Fire Stance. And then I can start a regen, I can improve Intelligence, which the only person that would really help is Aisha, or I could just attack and start reducing type resistance. You can see that there was the heal that you get from Noble Flames. Aisha's kind of nice because the more fire attacks you do, she restores some of that mana, so that's one way to help control that ridiculous 250 mana cost for Indulgence. Turn 2, we're going to reduce power and intellect. She is going to beef her own damage up as well as her physical resistance. The enemy's physical resistance will decrease. We are going to improve party's power, intellect, and speed. And let's go ahead and get a prayer going, why not?
Bless your soul.
Never felt like this before.
Now let's say that you're fighting a boss and it's about to do some massive attack. That would be the time to cast Indulgence. And if you're blowing the AF gauge, you can cast Indulgence first and still then continue to attack with Noble Flames, or whatever attack skill you really want to. I guess you could Hammer Slam if you wanted. So, if you need to use Indulgence but you want to still do some damage on the same turn, go ahead and blow the AF gauge. So we're going to cast Indulgence. We're going to attack, attack, and attack. And if the boss did a massive attack, it would attack just Prai, and the rest of the team would be fine. And as we know, he will be stunned on the very next turn. So we will continue our onslaught. And then following all that, Prai is back and can either cast Indulgence again, attack, whatever it is he needs to do. So that's going to be the general pattern for this team. A couple of notes. My Aldo is Stellar Awakened, so he has all of the nodes open, but light-wise he only has 105, I think, light points. So we just did about 131 million in damage in 5 turns, which for mid-game bosses is a pretty good amount. And I got silver tokens. So anyway, as I was saying, Aldo is Stellar Awakened, so he does have a few more stats, power, etc. You'll notice I did not use Starworm Slash at all during that, because in mid-game you may or may not have access to that. So I'm trying to recreate the mid-game scene with a relatively free team. So, with that in mind, let's go fight a boss. To showcase this team, we're going to fight the Insula Ventorum 20,000 BC. It's a boss that's weak to fire. It starts off with a wind zone, so we're going to blow the AF gauge to start. We're going to do Dragon God Sign to reduce physical resistance, Shadow Slash to inflict pain, Flame Serenade to deploy Fire Stance, and he's just going to spam Noble Flames. Then on turn 2, we're going to do X/Light. We'll probably work in Howling Surge, Eternal Fantasia, but then otherwise just keep spamming our first skill. So we're going to do 3, 3, 3, 1, and then 1, 2, 2, 1. 3, 3, 3, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, and then just spam all ones. We'll see how much damage we can get in. So the first turn, the boss tends to not do any damage. So here on turn 2, the boss is going to attack. We'll go ahead and cast Indulgence, and we will attack with the other 3 characters. It looks like the boss stunned us, so no one got any damage in. So now we're going to cast Indulgence and then attack with the other 3 characters. And he redeployed Wind Zone. It. So we are going to do Flame Serenade. You'll see that all attacks get redirected to Prai. Now he will be stunned on this next turn. So we're going to attack. Prai is up again, so we're going to attack with everyone, and we should, unless the boss goes first, hit the HP stopper. Looks like there it is. So we have the AF gauge again, but we're in a wind zone. So we are going to blow the AF gauge again. We are going to go all out attack, and we might try to work in 1 Indulgence just to be on the safe side. So we'll do 3, 3, 3, and then, 1, 1, 1, and then Indulgence, and then just spam all ones. Check our debuffs. Alright. We might work in 1 Dragon God sign, so we'll do 3, 1, 1, 3, 4. 3, 1, 1, 4, and then all fire attacks. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to remove that wind zone. Well, he's going to be stunned. Flame Serenade, Howling Surge, and we got in Dragon God Sign, but he cleared all the debuffs, so we're going to cast it again. Being knocked in the back row wasn't horrible, since he restored a little bit of mana in that procedure. Alright, we are going to Blaze Concerto, and we are going to Scalding Serenade.
Let's fight till the end. The Divine's heart is merciful.
Redeploy Fire Zone, attack, attack, and let's go ahead and attack. And there we go. So when you're fighting a boss and you know a big attack is coming, that would be the time to cast Indulgence. Just know that he will be stunned following that. Before we get into the advanced team building, I do want to address a little bit of a cheat regarding Prai and his Indulgence. Full disclosure, I did not discover this. I've seen this in several YouTube videos. Most recently, 77AE was using it on some super bosses. And it's a really cool little technique, so I'm going to share exactly what it is. But basically, it negates the stun that Indulgence forces. So what it requires, there's two ways to do it. There's one through sidekicks and one through Stellar Awakened characters. So we're going to do a Stellar Awakened character example. You need to have a character that's Stellar Awakened that has the ability to cast something that clears skills. We have status effects. We have Fine, and she has a skill called Refresh. Refresh restores all statuses of all party members and provides status immunity. The status immunity we don't care about because Prai's Indulgence bypasses status immunity. However, it can be restored. So, we need to be able to cast Refresh when we want to. And we can do that with a Stellar Awakened. So, first things first, let's go ahead and get that burst bar up to par. So I'm going to go ahead and blow the AF gauge just so we can fill up this burst bar. So we're just going to spam all ones. Alright, there we go. So here we are on turn number 3. Turn 3. We know the big baddie boss is about to cast some horrible skill that will destroy the entire party. So Prai uses Indulgence, and the rest of the party just continues doing whatever the party is supposed to be doing. So that means Big Baddie will attack the team, Prai will take all the damage, Prai will survive, but then on turn 4, Prai is stunned, and we can't use him until turn 5. That's normal. So there he is, he's stunned. Can't use him. Nothing. If I cast Refresh during this turn, yeah, he's going to stand up and, but at that point I've already entered the commands and I still can't use him. However, if I use the Stellar Burst, you can choose whatever skill you want to when you use a Stellar Burst. You don't have to use the Stellar Burst skill, so in Fine's case, I'm going to use Refresh. Now, Aldo could use Starworm Slash, that's kind of what they're there for, but if I wanted to debuff the enemy, let's say I wanted to do physical resistance 70% reduction, I don't have to cast Starworm Slash, I can cast whatever I want. So I'm going to cast Dragon God Sign and use the burst bar for that. Using the burst bar does not use your turn. And look, Prai is up and ready to go again on turn 4, which means he can have commands now. So if I needed to, I could cast Indulgence on back-to-back turns. The problem is now, of course, I need to build back up the Stellar Burst gauge in order to do that again. So, but if Big Baddie did 2 back-to-back really horrible attacks, I can use that little trick and have Prai use Indulgence on back-to-back turns. There he goes, on turn number 4, doing Indulgence. And now he's stunned. Now, the same concept can apply to sidekicks. Sidekicks, over time, build up a charge bar, and some of them have a charge skill, others don't. So you have to use a sidekick that has a charge skill. And I will show you, let's go ahead and finish up. Go ahead and do your origin force. So if you don't have a Stellar Awakened character, such as Fine, who's able to clear statuses, let's show you what sidekicks can do. Yeah. Give me my silver tokens. I have bought every single reward with silver tokens thanks to this development series. Alright, so, sidekicks. If you give Kurobo the Sea Rattle, you'll notice that it says restore all statuses on its charge skill. So that means if Kurobo uses his charge skill, Perfect Chemistry, which takes 6 charges, part of the deal is that it will also restore all statuses. So if Prai is stunned and I'm able to activate Kurobo's charge skill, Kurobo will clear Prai's stun as well. And just keep in mind, the sidekick has to be able to have a charge skill. For example, Minimander does not have a charge skill. So using Minimander's not going to help in this case. I could give him, I could give him the Sea Rattle, but there's no charge skill. I can't ever actually activate its effect. So when you're choosing a sidekick, make sure it is a sidekick that has a charge skill. And it'll say charge skill over there. And if you give them items such as the Sea Rattle, and there might be other items, I'm not sure if I have all of them. Restore party members, restore... You can kind of skim through and see, but there might be others. But I know about the Sea Rattle, because I've done that one before. Anything that restores statuses will restore the Indulgence stun. So that is another way to do it if you don't have a Stellar Awakened character, or if you just want extra insurance. To showcase an advanced team, I basically took my usual fire team, but instead of Radius AS, I swapped her out for Prai. In this team, I have Manalka, who's the main damage dealer with Power of Pains, Elpis Sword, Dryad's Bangle, and so forth. Sukiya as support. She has a lot of health to survive a few hits, and her main role is to drop Fire Zone to awaken the Fire Zone and to buff the party. I have Iffy, who also is designed for health. Her main role is the Pain Poison setter, and she also buffs the team with Nocturnal Procession. And then Prai, who is built a little bit differently than before. I have the OOPA Arts Weapon Enduring Hammer, which reduces MP consumption. If you have MP consumption in any form, it could be grasta, weapons, whatever, his Indulgence, instead of being 250 mana, only costs 200 mana. So now he could cast it 3 times in a normal situation. They don't stack, so having MP Consumption Hammer and Enduring Hammer combined don't do anything. But I just wanted to give you options to reduce that. Again, the HP, he has 9,000 health. Is it necessary? Not really. You could build him differently. You could build him for speed. So he could attack more frequently in an AF gauge and so forth. Again, your own personal preference. Defenses don't matter as much to him because he can't die when Indulgence is active, but he can die when it's not active. So that's the reason I like to have a lot of HP regardless. He's not a main damage dealer. But, build him the way you want. And then for the back row support, since Manalka is the main damage dealer, I have sword-related grasta or fire-related grasta. And one of my new ones, Power of Awakening Sword, it's in the new content, Into the Hollow Part 3. In an awakened zone, damage increases for all party members. So when I awaken the Fire Zone, Manalka's damage will increase. Normally I would have Enhance at max HP, but Manalka and Iffy both cause the team to take damage, so it's very rare for me to be at max HP. In fact, I probably don't even need that grasta either for a Manalka-based team, but there are occasional times where the team actually is healed for whatever reason, and I don't really have anything better to give them anyway. So that's the team. Sidekick-wise, Tetra and Kurobo, since it's a fire team. The enemy will almost always be taking fire damage on the first turn, and they will get an automatic power int reduction. It does risk, if the enemy I'm fighting does fire damage, I might have the same issue, but in this particular example, that doesn't happen until turn 2, and I don't believe I'll be taking any damage on turn 2. So, that's the team, and we are going to fight the Mysterious Chaos Ogre hard. Whenever you're fighting super bosses and you have Prai, because you have to choose when to do Indulgence, it's helpful to go to another Eden wiki and read. In this particular fight, Mysterious Chaos Ogre on the very first turn is going to do 5 shade attacks and a magic type attack which drains mana. So, because the team is low on health on the first turn, I like to go ahead and cast Indulgence right now. That way those shade attacks, if he hit Minalka like 3 times, she'd already be knocked out of the fight. So it's kind of a safety net. I'll cast Indulgence now, make sure the team won't die, and that will give me time to set up Pain, to set up a fire zone, and to go ahead and start ripping and tearing. Or if I feel like it, I could buff her health, but I'm just going to rip and tear. There goes Indulgence. It's preemptive, so now all the attacks are going to go his way. And while the attack damage didn't look like that much, I saw a few 100s with the shade attacks and then a few 500s with the magic attack. If any of the others had been targeted, they could have been knocked out on the first turn, which would kind of ruin the fight. So here we are on the second turn. Now, on the second turn, he's going to do some fire attacks according to the wiki. However, I'm going to preempt him, blow the AF gauge. We're going to continue to rip and tear. I'm going to cast Surging Blaze, which will buff up the team, and Nocturnal Procession, which will buff up the team. And then, when I cast Shakur and Rambo, that's going to awaken the zone. So I'm going to basically cast Rip and Tear, Skill 2, and then just spam all Skill 1s. Icarfelio isn't going to do that much damage since we're in a fire zone, but what will happen is we're going to get the boss down to an HP stopper. It won't attack because we reached the HP stopper, and then Prai will be ready to go on turn 3. There we go. We hit the HP stopper. Boss gets mad. And Prai is available for turn 3. In this case, we're going to go ahead and rip and tear and finish the fight. We could cast other things if we want to. It's not going to matter. Basically, once Minalka goes, the fight is over. But Prai's Noble Flames would heal up the team some too, so it's kind of a bit of a safety net. He took all the damage last turn, and then this turn he could have healed the team if we didn't already destroy the boss. So the bottom line, when you're fighting super bosses and you have Prai, because you don't have rage, you don't have any way to put rage on bosses or anything unless you use like grasta or badges, things like that. Actually, is there a rage badge? No, there probably is. Pretty sure there is a grasta though. It gives you the skill rage, so you have to put it on his skill bar as well. But basically the bottom line is if you know a major attack is coming, that would be when you use Indulgence. He absorbs all the damage, lets the rest of the team do their thing, and you win the fight. So that is an example of Prai with an advanced group of characters fighting much stronger super bosses. So in summary, that is Prai in a nutshell. To some degree, he's a bit of a one note. He casts Indulgence, and he can heal the team and reduce type resistance. And that's about all he's good for. If you build him in the early game, you could pretty much give him whatever you want. If you build him late game, you can kind of sort of choose how you want to build him. Because Indulgence takes so much mana, I would recommend items that reduce MP consumption, or grasta that gives an MP regen so he has a way to heal it back. And it would be helpful to pair him with characters that have the ability to restore mana as well, like Aisha's End of Turn. The team gets back some mana based on how many fire attacks are done, for example. So that's a way to rebuild his mana quickly. But the nice thing about Indulgence, you can cast it as many times as you want. To that degree, he's actually better than Radius or even Alma AS. In Radius's case, she has Chivalry 3 times, and once you've used it 3 times, you can't do it again. And Alma, you have to be an Alchemaic High in order for her to survive attacks, and it takes longer and longer and longer. Indulgence, you basically have on demand. There is a way, as I showed you, to do Indulgence on back-to-back turns if you need to, but other than that, as long as you have the mana, you pretty much can do it every other turn, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. Prai is a pretty awesome character in that regard and can help you cheese a lot of fights. I've seen him used in the Ukwaji fights. I've seen he absorbs the Fist of All Heavens just fine. You know, that's a possible use for him. I've seen him in many other videos. If you watch YouTube, you basically see Prai used for his Indulgence. So I hope this video helps you. Casual Crono, signing out.